From our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. A parliamentary inquiry has heard the task force behind Tasmania's AFL licence didn't initially think there was a need for a new stadium in Hobart. The admission coming from a senior public servant on day one of scrutiny into the proposed project, which saw the government and committee members trading barbs.
A contest as fierce as any footy match. The Public Accounts Committee putting the proposed Macquarie Point Stadium under scrutiny.
You aren't able to answer the question.
Order.
Nothing at all. You can't answer that question.
Order.
Where in the task force report does it actually say that?
Guy Barnett and senior bureaucrats are first to be grilled. The minister defending the $750 million proposal.
We'll bring on jobs, economic activity, visitors to Tasmania.
Also accusing Labor of hypocrisy over their election commitment for a rectangular venue.
The rectangular stadium put by state Labor for 10 to 15,000 seats, 1.5 pages with not one extra document or report.
A senior state growth executive conceding the plans weren't the task force's first choice.
The task force in their discussions with the AFL initially pushed back on the need for a stadium as a prerequisite.
But says the new stadium was an AFL requirement.
The AFL have said from day one that a new stadium, through discussions, through negotiations, is a prerequisite.
The Greens taking aim at the Premier, claiming he assured them the project wasn't part of the bid.
If we knew that there'd been a secret agreement to attach a stadium to the state's AFL bid, there is no way we'd have signed on.
Labor also looking for answers.
Jeremy Rockcliffe has a lot of explaining to do as to why his government has signed Tasmania up to the dud deal to deliver a stadium.
The committee also probing when the new venue became a deal breaker for the league.
It's the question here. The evidence, the piece of paper that with Mr McLaughlin's signature on it.
He didn't write a recipe book of all of his requirements.
On the field, the SFL has confirmed it will meet next week to discuss the Hobart Tigers' bid to field just a reserve side this season. Its new president says an AFL team is the spark local footy needs to boost dwindling player numbers.
We are an Australian rules state. It will reignite a lot of passion, and that will reignite a lot of energy back into the game.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
A 20-year-old Granton man charged with murdering prison escapee Nicholas Scott will face the Supreme Court after pleading not guilty today. Brock Davey fronted the Hobart Magistrates Court, also pleading not guilty to several firearm offences. He is one of 3 men charged over the fatal shooting in January. Mr Davey blew a kiss to his young family as he was returned to custody. Tasmania Police says new family violence training is helping equip frontline officers to better recognise emotional abuse as a criminal offence. With the prosecution rates currently low in the community, experts say identifying the behaviour is vital for victims.
Putting the scourge of family violence in the spotlight. Those tasked with protecting victims fronted up to enhance their response.
When our police are out dealing with family violence matters, they're really complex issues.
Tasmania Police is currently reviewing its recruit training into how domestic abuse cases are handled.
Consistency is very important, and I think that's something that we will continue to work on in our space.
Experts have been called in to drive change and examine the best way forward.
Emotional abuse is rife, not always easily detectable. Sometimes what's chargeable is only like the tip of the iceberg, but it's often enough to actually create changes for the target.
Emotional abuse and coercive control are both elements at the forefront of their education in an effort to fill any knowledge gaps in the system.
When we talk about things like prosecution for emotional abuse and things like that, our numbers are quite low. And what today's about is building the skills up of our officers. Go, no, that is an offence under the Family Violence Act. We can do something here.
Survivors at the Centre is the state government's current action plan to respond to family and sexual violence, with its vision to keep all Tasmanians safe, equal and respected.
If we can skill officers up to be knowledgeable, be able to identify and then be very sensitive in their response, it will be a very good police response.
The organisation marking the beginning of a commitment to improve policing in the space. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
And if this story caused concern, you can contact 1800 RESPECT. A pedestrian in his 40s is in a serious condition in hospital after an early morning crash on the South Arm Highway. The man was hit by a car while crossing the highway at the intersection of Oceana Drive just after 6 a.m.
Pedestrians, of course, are vulnerable. They're easily injured, and so pedestrians being involved in a collision with motor vehicles, by its very nature, leads to more significant injuries.
Traffic was reduced to one lane for 3 hours while crash investigators examined the scene. And a van driver has had a lucky escape after failing to give way when turning onto the Bass Highway near Burnie. No serious injuries were reported after the van was hit by a truck travelling west at Wivenhoe. Traffic flow was affected for close to 2 hours. Vulnerable Tasmanians struggling to find sustainable housing are set to benefit from a multi-million-dollar boost into the sector. A timely investment, as the latest Australian Bureau Statistics data reveals Tasmania has the fastest growing rate of homelessness in the country.
A devastating housing crisis taking homelessness figures to shocking new levels. The latest census data revealing 2,350 Tasmanians were without a place to call home in 2021. Numbers up more than 40% compared to 2016.
These are not figures, they are people. They all have a story to tell, and we need to listen to that story. And we need to provide supports along the way.
The Albanese government announcing a further $67.5 million for states and territories over the next year to bolster homelessness services.
This comes on top of the $91 million that I announced just a few days ago for the Reconnect Youth Homelessness Services.
It's welcome relief for housing provider Colony 47, which is finding it harder to support vulnerable Tasmanians.
Anyone can come in and they're not turned away, but there's supply issues. We see it in terms of access to emergency shelters, for instance, which may be full.
The state government grateful for the cash injection.
We have need right around the state. Particularly going into winter. So this will be welcome, and if we can use that to leverage some of Tasmania's existing record investment in housing and homelessness services, it'll go further too.
It's part of a 12-month extension on the National Housing and Homelessness Agreement, while the federal government works on a new plan set to start in mid-2024.
If we all work together, we might be able to turn some of this around. But no tier of government is going to solve this alone.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
A woman who was found guilty of stealing thousands of dollars from Cricket Tasmania will remain in home detention. It comes after an application to cancel or review Renee Ferguson's detention order was dismissed in the Hobart Magistrates Court. Police are extraditing a man to Tasmania to face child sexual abuse charges. Detectives travelled to Townsville in northern Queensland to bring a 38-year-old man back to the state over incidents allegedly committed between 2018 and 2022. He's scheduled to appear in the Launceston Magistrates Court on Monday. Proposed speed reductions around the Launceston CBD are receiving mixed reviews from the public. Council is supporting the move, saying safety of motorists and pedestrians is its priority.
Power to the people. The Launceston public now get to have their say about our city streets.
The reduction of speeds, some roads from 60 to 50 and some from 50 to 40.
Council unanimously voting yesterday for a proposal to lower speed limits in the city's CBD, hoping to improve road user safety.
We want to reduce the risk of injury and harm.
About 1 in 4 of our serious crashes that happen in our urban areas are pedestrians and cyclists. So when you get areas, high pedestrian density areas, then the risk of a crash involving a vehicle is increased.
Drivers could see reductions from 50 to 40 kilometres per hour around the Launceston CBD, bounded by Cimetiere, York, Wellington and Tamar streets, as well as roads around Mowbray and Kingsmeadow shopping centres. Reductions from 60 to 50 kilometres per hour have also been proposed for Bathurst Street, parts of Invermay Road, Wellington and High Streets, as well as roads surrounding Newstead Shopping Centre.
It is vitally important that our speeds are safe for the relevant road conditions.
Ultimately, the decision is now in the hands of the people, with some supportive and others uncertain.
Really safe option. 40k is a really good thing. They can do it if they do it in congested school zones, do it in a congested city area as well.
50 is pretty slow as it is, so 40 might be pushing it, and I don't know if we can rely on people to adhere to that.
The community can now have their say through the consultation phase. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Stage 1 of the redevelopment of Australia's oldest continually operating public school is nearing completion in southern Tasmania. Sorell School has undergone a multi-million-dollar facelift, transforming the facility into a state-of-the-art operation for thousands of students.
It is extremely important for Sorell. Sorell community deserves this facility, so we're really excited to see what stage 2 and stage 3 will look like.
As we go through, good project management is always updating our costings and our timings. We'll be sure to deliver the full program of works that we've committed to here.
It's hoped the upgrades will support the area for years to come, with population growth projected to boom. Young job seekers in the northwest will have more options to get work ready with the expansion of a successful employment program. Fit for Work helps provide skills many of us take for granted while supporting some of our most vulnerable.
18-year-old Lee King says getting a start in the workforce hasn't been straightforward. Developing necessary job skills might have been tough without the help of the Northwest Youth Family and Connection Service.
Honestly, it probably wouldn't be really good for me right now if it wasn't for the program.
The YFCC Fit for Work course provides intensive support to participants. It teaches key work skills and also helps with housing, mental health treatment and other barriers to future employment.
When you're worrying about where you're going to sleep tonight or where you're going to get your next meal, it's pretty hard to look for 20 jobs a month.
Small caseloads mean participants are provided with more one-on-one support.
They do an amazing job. There's a massive care factor for their clients and they'll do everything they can to help them out.
Fit for Work is expanding from Devonport to Burnie, with other providers set to roll the program out across the state. It's seen as a golden opportunity to break the cycle of disadvantage. Historically low unemployment means there's potentially greater likelihood of securing employment.
It's not just about compliance, it's actually about transforming the life chances of young people.
And for Lee, the future is looking brighter.
Just feeling more confident in my abilities, so yeah.
Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
This year's Easter treats could taste even sweeter with a new fundraiser combining chocolate cravings with fundraising. Woolworths is partnering with St Giles to raise money for demonstration equipment to be loaned to families trying to figure out what they need from the NDIS. Year 12 student Joe Murray is the face of the campaign. He's used St Giles services since birth.
They do all the campaigning and they're not no judgment or anything.
There's team members even in our own store that has a St Giles story to tell.
The only trouble is which chocolate to pick.
I reckon I'll do probably everything.
With your $2 tokens can be purchased at the checkout to support the cause. Cat Centre 10 Lives is sending out a call for help, launching its Tradies for Tabbies initiative, partnering with Master Builders. The not-for-profit is encouraging members of the construction industry to volunteer their time to help renovate the animal facility.
The facilities are well and truly inadequate for the services that are provided by 10 Lives Cat Centre. At the moment, plumbing and building have been front and centre. Electricians would be really handy. It's something where we really need the support of a Sparky or two, so if you'd like to come and help us out, that would be fantastic.
Come and help out and support this great work so that we can expand the facilities of the 10 Lives Cat Centre and make sure that they continue to support the Tasmanian community.
Those looking to volunteer can contact either 10 Lives or Master Builders. He is best known in the cycling world for his stunning photography, but this week a Tasmanian known as Beardy McBeard is simply lucky to be alive after being thrown from his bike in a brutal car crash. Tonight he's made a plea for motorists to take care around those on two wheels while revealing the global support he's received.
Both bones in his arm broken, his leg shattered and in agonising pain. Beardy McBeard, real name Marcus Eno, is the brave face of what cyclists endure when they're hit by a car.
This is, I guess, every cyclist's worst nightmare.
A relaxing ride in New Norfolk became that nightmare when he was struck by a bull bar when crossing a roundabout.
The impact was so great that it pushed the bone through the back of my leg.
He was meant to have surgery today, but his leg is still too swollen. He will potentially be bedridden for months. Beardy is usually found behind the lens, travelling the globe and taking sensational snaps at the Tour de France, Giro d'Italia, across the United States and closer to home at the Tour Down Under. But this wide net has galvanised global support. A GoFundMe page has raised $40,000 in less than a week, and plenty of well wishes.
It's nice to have all that, but at the end of the day, I'm off the bike for, who knows, maybe half a year, it could be. So it's going to be pretty tough.
His real hope is for more respect for those on two wheels instead of four.
So many times I hear cyclists just referred to as cyclists, but they're just people just like everybody else. And I think people need to have a little bit of respect.
So more people don't risk having their career, or worse, cut short. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
First grade cricket finals are underway around the state. In the south, former Test skipper Tim Payne led University out onto Blunston Arena for the Cricket Tasmania Premier League decider. But his former Tigers teammate Charlie Wakeham made it a tough day in the field. He smashed a stunning unbeaten double century to have Lindisfarne tightly holding the leash. Lindisfarne bat out the day to finish at 9 for 349. Charlie Eastoe top scored in Launceston's first innings at the NTCA ground. He smashed 43 off 88 balls to give Launceston a fighting chance against reigning champion Westbury. Launceston was bowled out for just 95 runs in the 39th over, Kieran Hume taking 7 for 33. In reply, Westbury is 8 for 157. And in the northwest, Ulverston built a steady first innings total of 249 against Wynyard. Paceman Riley Stafford was in form, taking 4 for 46, including the wicket of Josh Walmsley. Wynyard is 1 for 20 in its first innings. Play resumes at Latrobe tomorrow. And following Tim Payne's retirement from state cricket, tonight's Friday Flashback is digging up his debut tour for the national side when the Tasmanian truly made his mark. In 2009, Payne scored his first and only international century against England, vindicating the years he'd spent on the selectors' radar.
In the days of the Pura Cup, a 21-year-old Tim Payne announced his arrival to the cricketing world with a maiden double ton against Western Australia in only his 5th game. A jet-setting international career seemed inevitable.
I've always felt that I've been good enough to play at that level, but I guess until you actually do it, you still have that bit of self-doubt.
3 years later, Payne finally had that chance.
He's got a smile on his face. Why wouldn't you?
During his debut tour, Payne's start against England didn't go to plan.
It was a terrible run.
Out for a duck. But in the 6th one-dayer at Trent Bridge, the story was far different.
He's gone for it and he's hit it pretty well.
A blistering attack on a hapless England side saw the Tasmanian reach his maiden international century, and the reaction said it all.
Down. Oh, and there it is. Tim Payne gets his first one-day 100 for Australia. And he is thrilled. Why wouldn't he be? Just playing in his 7th match. And he gets the round of applause from his teammates on the balcony.
Australia went on to win by 111 runs, the exact total Payne ended up scoring. He returned home.
Still think about it a bit, to be honest. It was a very special day.
But not for long. His Test debut arrived less than 12 months later against Pakistan. Alongside captain Ricky Ponting and paceman Ben Hilfenhaus, it was also the first time 3 Tasmanians had ever played in the same Test side.
A wicket for Hilfenhaus.
And for Tim Payne, a memorable moment, the first time he's taken a catch in Test matches.
2 of them combining for that special start and launching an 11-year Test career.
Good evening, Hobart and Burnie. 22 today. Launceston reached 23, Devonport a high of 21 degrees. Temperatures mostly just below average. Bushy Park 22, Smithton and Friendly Beaches 21, Flinders Island and Low Head 20, King Island, St Helens 19, Strawn 17, Lyawini a low overnight with -1. A couple of showers resulted from the cloud over the west and northeast of the state today, but nothing of any real note. Extensive cloud is over Western Australia, another cloud band is over South Australia, areas of low cloud over Victoria and New South Wales. Tomorrow, a weak ridge of high pressure persists over Tasmania, and of course, several troughs continue over the mainland. 5 to 15 knot variable winds over northern waters, west to southwesterlies to 20 knots elsewhere, more southeasterly later over the east coast. To the weekend at Hobart, mostly cloudy and 20. 15 for Medina with a 50% chance of a shower, partly cloudy for Oatlands and 19 the high. Launceston a top of 22 and partly cloudy, sunny for Devonport mostly, 20 and 16 the high for Lyawini. Burnie expecting 20, mostly sunny, a morning shower over Strawn clearing, 17 the top and 18 the high for Marrawar, and down the east coast, fine, St Helens 19, 20 for Swansea and Orford. UV at a moderate 5 for Saturday. Sunday, fine and partly cloudy for the entire state, plenty of sunny breaks as well. However, a few showers will develop on Monday, mainly over the east and Bass Strait, and more showers on Tuesday, most likely over the east again. Fine and partly cloudy weather for Perth, Adelaide and Melbourne, showers on the way for Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane, a storm forecast for Darwin. Mostly sunny in Hobart at 17, 19 and clear in Launceston, 18 right now in Devonport. Kim, it's not like me to make a disparaging comment, but I'd like to ask you what type of doily is that you're wearing tonight?
It's a fashionable one. Good night, Merv. Well, finally tonight, the Summer Box Rally has come to a roaring end after 5 days on the road. 250 cars worth less than $1,500 each, travelling all the way from Rockhampton to Hobart. Each team raising money for Australia's Cancer Council.
I started the rallies after I lost Mum and Dad to cancer within 12 months of each other, so it had obviously a profound impact on me.
These young Tasmanian petrol heads were the first over the finish line, their dads clinching second place.
We let the boys come in first to make their mums proud. For us, it's pretty awesome to raise the money for the Cancer Council. It hits home. My auntie's had cancer and a couple of my uncles have.
This year's event has exceeded its target, raising more than $2 million. Great effort. And that is your local news for this Friday. As always, thanks for joining us. Good night.